Welcome back to OT Sports. Today we got our Week 13 college basketball Power 40 rankings. If you guys are enjoying these videos, make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got plenty of content around here: college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. So if you're into any of that, make sure you go down there and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notifications to make sure you don't miss out on any of our videos that come out. As always, my Discord and X are linked in the description. You can join that. You can follow that. Whatever you'd like to do. But let's just get right into the top, the Power 40 rankings. So starting at the bottom, number 40, I did put St. John's back in here. Now they're just, it was either, there was a couple teams here. Nebraska was close. Some kind of non-Power 6 teams like Indiana State, McNeese, Princeton. Like I said, you had Nebraska. Seton Hall was really close. I did put St. John's in. They are 13-7, but they're actually pretty high on KenPom, and that was kind of the reason I put them in. Their top 45 in both offense and defense. So the numbers are there, and 13-7 is obviously not the worst thing in the world. Moving on to number 35. Moving on to number 39, we got the Kansas State Wildcats. Now, I know they went 0-2 last week, so they did drop down quite a bit. I think they moved down like 9 or 10. But it was 2 road games against Iowa State and Houston, 2 teams I'm very high on. Before that, they had won 4 of their last 5. They were picking up some pretty good wins here and there. And, like I said, the Big 12 is a hard place to play. They had 2 road games against 2 really good teams. Now, the offense does worry me a lot for Kansas State. It's ranked 132 right now, not great, but the defense is just outside the top 20. So I don't know how legitimate they are as a tournament team. But the defense will be able to win them some games. Maybe they shouldn't. Providence at 38. They returned to the rankings after taking down Seton Hall on the road, I will mention. This week, and they also beat Georgetown in Ed Cooley's return to Providence. The atmosphere was amazing there, emotional for obviously him, but Providence did get the win. So they moved to 14-6. So actually, pretty good record here. They're number 9 in defense, but similar to Kansas State, the offense is just ridiculously bad. 140. That's around the midpoint in college basketball, so you're not going to see that many. This is probably the lowest ranking out of either offense or defense for all of these teams inside the top 40. They are still barely in there, but they had a really nice week. The defense is still very good. Number 9 is one of the best. That's almost as good as you can get, so that's very solid. Similarly, to Providence, we got a similar team here in Mississippi State, although I will say the offense is much better than Providence is. 78th in offense, but the defense at 11th, so, a very similar team, but the offense is definitely a lot better than Providence. Looking at their past week, they lost on the road against Florida, but they did take down Auburn at home, so I only moved them down 1. Honestly, I probably could have moved them up, but, the only reason I moved them down 1 was because the aforementioned Florida, they did beat them. Florida had a nice week taking down Mississippi State and Georgia, 2 teams that are hovering around this bubble kind of area. And looking at KenPom, this team, 13th in offense, 100th in defense, though. So the defense has got to get up a little more for me to trust them come tournament time, but the offense still at number 13 is very, very good. St. Mary's at 35. They continue to move up the rankings because they continue to win. I think they're on a pretty hefty win streak now. I think it's 8 games, so that is very good. They're 16-6, very good record. And they're honestly a pretty highly rated in KenPom. They're at 30 overall right now, 76 in offense, 12th in defense. So kind of similar to where Mississippi State is at. Almost identical. They're one lower than them in a defense, but and then 2 higher than them in offense. So very similar teams. Mississippi State does play the better competition, but St. Mary's is hot right now. You don't want to play them. And then the other West Coast Conference team, Gonzaga at 34, they also continue to win. They're going to need that win against Kentucky. I've been saying this. They play Kentucky next month on the road. That's going to be a really tough game. But if they can win that, because they got to salvage, they got to get a win here, because right now they're on the bubble. They don't have a good out-of-conference win. That would be the game where they need. That would be the game where they would have to win it. Do I think they'll probably make the tournament even if they don't win that game? Most likely, but it's not 100%. I mean, the KenPom numbers are very good. 24th in offense, 40th in defense. It's overall very solid, but yeah, the resume isn't as good as you would want it to be. Boise State at 33. They stay around this area. Feel like they've been in here for a while. 105th in offense, not great, but 28th in defense. Obviously, they gotta figure things out on offense for me to trust them. But the defense is very solid. They lost in overtime, I will mention, against a very good Utah State team. In 2 days, they have to go on the road to the Pit to play New Mexico. That team's hot. You don't want to play there. That's a very tough place to play. But Boise State has been racking up a lot of big wins. I know I said they just lost, but before that, they had beaten Nevada, Colorado State, San Diego State. And that game was very close against Utah State. Texas at 32. They picked up a huge win on the road in a rivalry game against Oklahoma. That I was very impressed by that. They also took down Baylor last week. Don't forget that. They did lose on the road against BYU, but I mean the 15-point win over Oklahoma in a rivalry game on the road. That is very good. Very impressive. So I moved them up. I think like 2. Now they did lose, but I don't know, man. Texas kind of been playing better as of late. Now we'll see how they look tonight. They play Houston at home. If they can win that, I'll feel a lot more confident about Texas. 25th in offense, 73rd in defense. Not too bad. I would like to see the defense improve a little bit for me to fully get on the Longhorns train. Colorado State continues to fall. They're now at 31. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games. Losing to Utah State, Boise State, Nevada, and Wyoming. So all pretty solid teams here in the Mountain West. Tomorrow they have a home game against San Diego State. That's a huge game. Both those teams in this 15-team range here. So that is a very huge game for the Mountain West standings. But yeah, Colorado State, man, is really falling off a cliff. They look like the best Mountain West team by a pretty good amount in non-conference play. But as of now, they're currently the 7th best team in their conference when looking at conference records. So they would be the 7th seed in the conference tournament if it ended right now. Do I think they're the 7th best team? No. They're probably around, in my opinion, 4th or 5th. I feel like them and Boise are pretty close. I think Nevada's the worst. They're the only of the 6 Mountain West teams that have been getting a lot of recognition to get in the tournament. Nevada, I think, is the worst, and I don't think they'll end up making it. They don't really have too many impressive wins besides TCU. I think Colorado State and Boise are kind of interchangeable as of right now. San Diego State, I still think is a very good team. They're at 26th, though. I think them, Utah State, and New Mexico are honestly all pretty close. So that's kind of where I stand on the Mountain West right now. But yeah, like I said, Colorado's really been taken aback a little recently. Hopefully they can figure it out. Speaking of teams that have been struggling recently, Memphis is one of those teams. They are now on a 3-game losing streak, I believe, in 56 in offense, 86 in defense. That continues to go down with them losing these games. They were right outside the top 10 at one point in my rankings. Now they're on a 3-game losing streak, and they're all the way down at 30. They've taken quite the fall. They're at 15-5 now. So I don't know that as of right now, I still think they would get in the tournament, but they're starting to to get closer and closer to that bubble range. You do not want to be in there uh, if you're trying to make the tournament. Ole Miss at 29. They got a huge, two pretty big wins, underrated wins, honestly. They played against two teams needing a win to keep their tournament hopes alive. Now, it is kind of a long shot at this point for both those teams, but they still had a chance at the time they were playing. I don't want to say long shot because obviously if they win out, they'll get in, but that's not very realistic. And honestly, I think both these teams could win their conference tournament if things go their way and they get hot. Those teams are Arkansas and A&M. They played Arkansas at home, won by 26 points, very impressive. And then they go on the road against Texas A&M, a team needing a win. I thought A&M would get this one. Ole Miss goes in there and wins. Now they're still very not great defensively, outside of the top 100 in efficiency, and offensively they're not too great either, just inside the top 50. But they are winning games in a very good SEC conference this year. Speaking of the SEC, South Carolina at 28. This was a team I had projected last in my preseason predictions for the SEC. They're at 17-3 now. They go on the road against Tennessee tomorrow, so we will see how legit they are. But they had a very good week, taking down Kentucky and Missouri this past week. They're on a 3-game win streak. They've won 4 of their last 5. They've had a very good month this month. In January, their only losses are to Georgia and Alabama, but they've taken down Mississippi State, Missouri twice. It's very hard to beat a team twice. On the road against Arkansas, they just took down Kentucky. So South Carolina is having a very solid start, really solid month this month, in the month of January. Hopefully they can carry that, momentum for the rest of the regular season. Looking at KenPom, they're at very comparable offense and defense, 59th and 57th. So, a very solid team kind of all around. And they're winning games, so good for them. Good for the Gamecocks. 27 got Northwestern. I consider them for the top 25. They just had a very nice week, beating Illinois and dominating Ohio State. This Ohio State team needed a win. So you guys know I'm a fan of Ohio State. And Northwestern just blew the brakes off of them. 25-point win. They were at home, but like I said, Ohio State needed a win. I thought Ohio State would go in there and win, and they just did exactly the opposite. Like I said, losing by 25. And then Northwestern takes down in-state rival Illinois at home on the road. KenPom-wise, 31st in offense, 82nd in defense, though. So they got to get the defense up a little bit more for me to fully trust them in the tournament, but the offense is looking very good. And they're doing really good in the Big Ten right now. San Diego State at 26, just outside the top 25. They go on the road. Actually, they only had one game this week against Wyoming. I did drop them down one just because I felt there was some team. There was one team that deserved to be in the top 25 more than them. But efficiency-wise, they're still, I believe, the highest rated Mountain West team. No, they're actually not. We'll get to the team that's passed them in a little bit. It's a team I'm very high on, but San Diego State is the second highest ranked Mountain West team in terms of efficiency. 52nd in offense, 18th in defense. Obviously, Jaden Ledee is a great player. He's probably going to be an All-American. But besides him, the offense isn't great. They still got Lamont Butler, but he's kind of taken I don't know, he hasn't been as great as he was last year compared to this year. Reese Waters has been really good for them. But yeah, like I said, I mean, Lamont Butler, honestly, he hasn't really been the scorer kind of guy, but, he's been there for a while. I'd expect him to take a little bit of a step forward, maybe. But moving into the top 25, number 25, I got TCU. They just had a very nice week going on the road against Oklahoma State. Obviously, that wasn't a great game. They only won by 5. It was on the road, though. And then they go into Waco, take down Baylor in 3 overtimes. That was a great game. If you guys missed it, 3 overtime went. TCU ends up winning by 3. And yeah, they're very high in efficiency, 26th in offense, 39th in defense. Honestly, higher than I thought they would be. But yeah, they're winning games. 15-5 in the Big 12 is a very good record. And yeah, like I said, TCU has been very impressive. A team that I've not been impressed with uh, as of recently. Oklahoma continues to lose, and they continue to fall down the rankings. As the weeks go by, I'm just getting less and less. I guess I'm drifting farther and farther away from the Oklahoma train. They have not had a great month. Now they did beat Iowa State earlier, but I don't know, man. They're 3-4 in the month of January as of right now, and they're on a two-game losing streak. They went 0-2 last week. Both they lost two home games, by the way, against Texas and Texas Tech. So that's not great. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not too sure about this Oklahoma team at this point. I mean, they just continue to unimpress me. Every time I watch them, it seems like they lose. Maybe that's just my fault, but 54th in offense, 27th in defense, that's not bad. But yeah, like I said, I don't know. Every time I watch them, they just don't look very good. The Texas Tech game, I will say, was a really good game. They were winning for most of that, so I guess they looked pretty good in that one. Baylor had an 0-2 week as well, losing to Texas. Or sorry, they only played one game this week. Texas was last week. Um, yeah, and they lost at home against TCU. They're now on a three-game losing streak. And similar to Oklahoma, I just continue to dislike Baylor. Now the defense is getting a lot better. They're now inside the top 70, and the offense is still number 6. Very, very good. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not working right now. I don't know what's going on. But they're not really winning games, so obviously something's wrong right now. Dayton at 22, they just lost on the road against Richmond. And Richmond is a team probably 41 right now in my rankings. They were right there. They're 15-5. They're undefeated in A10 play as of right now. Richmond's looking really good, but going back to Dayton, they were on like a 12-game win streak, so it's not gonna last forever. So I gave them a little bit of a pass. I did have to drop them down like 5 though, just because I felt some of the teams behind them deserve to be ahead of them at this point. Richmond though is a really good team. I don't fault Dayton too much. Dayton, is still a really good team. Deron Holmes is carrying the load on. I don't want to say carrying the load, but I mean, he's doing a lot of work for them. He's averaging almost 20 points, I think. You might be averaging 20 points, honestly. All you need to know is it's around 20. Efficiency-wise, very solid. Top 20 in offense, 58th in defense. That's pretty good. And they're 25th overall in efficiency, so kind of similar to their ranking. FAU at 21. I can't figure this team out. I mean, they just continue to not look great, but they're winning. They're on a 6-game win streak, but like I said, all of them have kind of been close against not very good teams. When you look at the efficiency, though, it's honestly pretty high. The defense does struggle a lot. The defense is really their main issue. 11th in offense. The offense was really good, I will say, but the defense just is just abysmal. John L. Davis is averaging almost 19 for them. But yeah, like I said, the defense it's just bad. I mean, yeah, it's really bad. Alabama at 20. They had a huge week this week. Taking down Auburn, and they also beat LSU. Yeah, Alabama, huge week this week. They win in the rivalry game. The offense is still number 1 in the country. Mark Sears is averaging 20 points per game. He's been great. And the defense continues to get better. They're at 66th now. At one point it was like 150 or something like that. So it's getting a lot better. BYU at 19. They got blown out. Well, I don't want to say blown out. Actually, I don't know why I even said blown out. They lost by 7 at home against Houston, but it was a very close game. And then they took care of business against Texas, winning by 12. The analytics are still very high on BYU, 8th in offense, 24th in defense. I got them at 19. Number 18, we got Utah State, the second highest Mountain West team we got here. And they got a guy, Great Osobor, I think that's how you say his name. He's a dog. He's almost averaging 20 points per game for them. Utah State is the third highest rated Mountain West team in a very good Mountain West conference this year. They're 18-2, 40th in offense, 50th in defense. Very solid team for Utah State. Yeah, I mean they're looking great. Continue to win. New Mexico at 17, another team that continues to win. They got to be on a pretty good win streak. They're on a 5-game win streak, undefeated at home still, and they look very good. 18-3. They're the highest rated efficiency-wise in the Mountain West. 37th in offense, 20th in defense. I think this team has potential to make a run in the tournament this season. I would not put it past them. Watch out for the Lobos. Number 16, they got Texas Tech. They beat Oklahoma this week, and I think they actually beat someone else. They only played Oklahoma this week, so my bad. But it was on the road, and they won. They're first right now in the Big 12 standings. They moved up quite a bit. They're at 16 now. 16-3 in the Big 12. Very good. Creighton at 15. Another team that continues to win. I don't want to say continues, but they had a little bit of a streak where they weren't doing too hot. They had a couple of easy games here, but they've taken care of business, and they've won all 3. So good for Creighton, not slipping up and losing one of these games they shouldn't. They're very high in efficiency, actually 15th, so same as my rankings. 39th in offense, 15th in defense. They got all the guys, Trey Alexander, Baylor Shireman, Ryan Kalkbrenner, all averaging close to 17 points per game or more. That's kind of their big 3, but the depth does worry me a little bit for them. Illinois at 14, they lost, so they moved down. They on the road against Northwestern in overtime. That was going to be a tough one, but they did beat Indiana, a team who was needing a win to keep their tournament hopes alive. And they're going to play a similar game on the road this time, actually, tomorrow against Ohio State. That is a team that, if they lose this one, they might be out of the tournament at this point. 13-7, they would have their 8th loss. If they lose this one, it's going to be a very tough game. Illinois, I could definitely see losing that. It is on the road in Columbus. They're favored by 2.5. Terrence Shannon is back. I'm not going to get into that too much. Just know he's back. He looks very good. He's averaging 20 points per game. Illinois 7th in offense, 30th in defense. A very solid team. They're in the top 10 right now in efficiency. 13, I got Auburn. I don't understand why people dropped Auburn so low. I've seen some people's polls. They have them like outside the top 20. The AP poll has them like down at 16. I mean, you gotta admit, before this week they were 16-2 in the SEC. I believe they were undefeated in conference play. And it's not like they hadn't played anyone. They played some pretty good teams and had been winning. Honestly, if Auburn wasn't as, they weren't ranked inside the top 25 for a while, but if they started the season inside even like the top 20 and they were at 16-2 at one point, I have no doubt that the Auburn team would be probably inside the top 5 at least. I mean, if they started off the season inside the top 10 or the top 15 like some of these teams have, and they went 16-2 to start out the season, I think everyone would agree pretty much like consensusly that they would be a top 5 team. But the fact that they had to climb their way up, honestly, I think I and everyone else had Auburn a little too low, so I actually didn't drop them too much. I did drop them like 6 or 7, or 5, 6 or 7 spots down, and I mean they did lose, but 4 point loss in a rivalry game on the road against Alabama, who's all the way up at 20, and then 6 point loss on the road against Mississippi State, who's also inside the top 40. Those are two very good teams that have very different play styles. Alabama's the high scoring offense, and Auburn kept up with them. And then Mississippi State is the slow going, very defensive team, and Auburn was right in the game as well. So I think Auburn, honestly, even though they lost those 2 games this week, they proved to me that they can beat you in a multitude of different ways. 19th in offense, 5th in defense, still top 20 in both. And yeah, this Auburn team, I'm still very high on. A team I'm not high on, Kansas at 12. I just continue to drop them because the depth just continues to hurt them. They lost again, and now it was on the road, 4 point loss, but they didn't look great early in the week against Cincinnati, who's a team that isn't the best. In Kansas, they're 23rd in offense, 25th in defense, so they're kind of balancing out a little bit more. But the depth, I mean, in the Iowa State game, they had 2 points from the bench. 2 points. 2 points from the bench, 73 from their starters. Come tournament time, if one of their big three in KJ Adams, Kevin McCullough, Hunter Dickinson gets in foul trouble or has an off night, they're just not going to win the game. So, I mean, we've seen that happen recently. They've been dropping games this month. They lost to UCF. They lost to West Virginia, two of the worst teams in the conference, and they also lose to Iowa State now recently. So I'm just going to continue to drop Kansas State. They probably should have lost to TCU a couple weeks back. I'm going to continue to drop them just because I just don't like how this team is built. Team that I am very high on, though, Iowa State. They go out and take down Kansas. They're 16-4 now. They have the same record as Kansas, and they just beat them. So I felt that I had the right to put Iowa State ahead of them. Iowa State is also ahead of Kansas in efficiency, 51st in offense. So that's not great. They got to get that going a little bit. But third in defense, and the defense looks elite. It's just ridiculous. Their stadium is, probably one of the hardest places. I mean, it's not probably. It is one of the hardest places to play in the country, Hilton Coliseum. It's just ridiculous. And they take down Kansas, so good for the Cyclones. But moving in to the big dogs, the top 10, number 10. I got Kentucky. I still have them inside the top 10. I considered dropping them out. They were very close to getting dropped out. They lose. They get blown out by South Carolina. And didn't look too great on the road against Arkansas for a team that the offense was really doing too much. 62 points and 63 in back-to-back games this week. That's not great, and this is a team known for having their offense being the best part. The defense is kind of lacking behind. And it still shows, efficiency-wise, 9th in offense, 70th in defense. I am very worried about this team. There's a lot of freshmen, but I don't know. They're still 15-4. I gotta respect them. They have a lot of really good wins. Arizona at 9. This is a team I also just not too quite sold on yet. They're so high in efficiency, 5th in offense, 16th in defense. Is that because they're playing in a weak conference? I don't know, but even with them playing in a weak conference, they're still tending to lose some of these games they shouldn't. I mean, last week they lose to, who was it? I think it was Oregon State. Well, that was this week, actually, so, but then they went out on the road against Oregon and won by like 10 points or something like that. So that kind of redeemed it a little bit because Oregon was a team, right there and for the top 40. Marquette at 8. They're on quite a bit of a win streak here, 4 games now. They're taking on some good teams in there too. Seton Hall, St. John's, Villanova, They had a little bit of a rough stretch to start the month, but they've really picked that up, and now they're 15-5. This team honestly kind of reminds me of the UConn team from last year. Not not really player wise or anything. It's just because they started off the season so highly ranked. They had a very tough non-conference schedule. They lost some of those games, but you still saw the potential. And they were close in some of those early losses, and they actually ended up winning a few. So they got themselves inside the top 10 early. But then to start off conference play, they just struggled a little bit, losing some games they probably shouldn't. They fell down to barely inside the top 20, but now they're starting to figure it out and they're starting to climb back up. That is what we saw from the UConn team last year. They got hot late. They finished with a 4 seed. I think Marquette could definitely end up as a 4 seed. Right now, I'd probably say they deserve a 3, but we will see. And yeah, Marquette very solid all around. 35th in offense, 14th in defense. Duke at 7. I don't know about this ranking. I put them here just because, you know, a lot of the teams ahead of them lost. I did jump Wisconsin over them, but I had Duke at 11 last week, Wisconsin at 12. Yeah, I don't know about Duke. They kind of got bailed out by their refs. But yeah, like I said, this kind of just because a lot of teams in front of them lost. I mean, Arizona lost, Kentucky lost, Kansas lost, Auburn lost, Illinois lost. So all those teams lost. So they kind of just had to move up by virtue of winning this week. But yeah, like I said, I don't know about this. I don't know. I like this team, but do I think they're this? I don't know. I don't think they're the seventh best. I don't know. This team's kind of hard to figure out. They get me on board and then they lose a game and then it's just like a cycle with this team. 12th in offense, 37th in defense, 14th overall in KenPom. That's very good. Obviously, Wisconsin at 6. This is a team I've been very impressed with. 4th in offense, 43rd in defense. That is overall very good. Now, if they can figure out the defense, at least get inside the top 30, then I think this team is legitimate Final Four tier. But the defense right now isn't as good as I need it to be for me to consider them that good yet. But they are right there. AJ Store's been amazing for them. And they got a very good team, 16-4. Yeah, looking very good. I believe they only have one loss in Big Ten play. Yeah, they're 8-1, so they are first place right now in the Big Ten. Do they play Purdue? Okay, they do. They actually do. Is this week? Yes, this week. So they have a home game against Purdue on Sunday. So that's going to be a great game to watch. They also play Purdue as their season finale on the road. So, yeah, Wisconsin's going to have a tough time. We're really going to see who's the best Big Ten team this week. That's going to be a phenomenal game. Houston at 5. So, I mean, these 5 right now are honestly in their... I would consider these 5 to be the legitimate title contenders as of right now. I'm not going to... As of right now, this is just as of right now, these are the 5 teams I think could legitimately win the title. Now, this is obviously subject to change. By next week, I could be saying a completely different team, like 3 completely different teams inside the top 5. That's just how college basketball is. But Houston, you can make an argument they should be number 1, and I wouldn't blame you. To be honest, me personally, I don't think they deserve to be number 1. The highest I could put them is probably 3, maybe, no, I don't know, probably 3 or 4. Right now I have them at 5, though. I didn't want to jump them over Tennessee, just because Tennessee didn't really give me any reason to do so. But Houston had a very good week, winning on the road against BYU and then dominating Kansas State. They started out Big 12 play a little bit rough, but they've been picking it up. They're now on a 4-game win streak. and they have wins over very good teams in that streak. Texas Tech, BYU, Kansas State, they obviously have the best defense in the country by a considerable amount. I mean, like by a lot. Uh, Tennessee is second in defense, but they're like 5 points behind Houston. So and then looking at like third, they're only at like a point behind Tennessee. Fourth is only really like a point behind Tennessee. Fifth is also only a point behind Tennessee in defense. So Houston has the best defense in the country by a long by a long shot, and 14th in offense. There's a reason they're number one in KenPom. They are a very good team. Tennessee at 4. This is the team that has the second best defense and the 18th best offense. So efficiency-wise, they're actually lower than Houston in both categories. But resume-wise, I think Tennessee does have the best resume. They just blew out Alabama a week ago. Now they did struggle a little in the first half against Vanderbilt. They did figure it out. They won by 13. Tomorrow they play South Carolina. If that game's close or they lose, I could see them losing. Houston might deserve to jump them at this point, but these two teams are interchangeable at 4 and 5. UNC at 3. I believe they're the only team that is still undefeated in conference play. At least they're the only team in the Power 40 still undefeated in conference play. They're at 3. They continue to win. They're on a pretty hefty win streak, 10 games now. They're 6th overall in KenPom, 15th in offense, 4th in defense. That is overall very good. Purdue at 2. They are 2nd overall in KenPom, 2nd in offense, 13th in defense. They continue to win. They're at 19 and 2. They have the best player in the country. I mean, 2, 3, and 4. You could argue they have the top 3 best players in the country. I think I would rank it Zach Edey 1, Dalton Knecht for Tennessee at 2, and then R.J. Davis at 3 for UNC. That's how good he's been playing. You could argue that those are the 3 best players right there at 2, 3, and 4. But then UConn is the team I have number 1. Their defense just continues to improve. They're almost inside the top 20 now. I think like 2 weeks ago they were barely inside the top 40. That is very scary because when you look at it, if you find a team top 20 in offense and defense, that is a team that has a real shot at winning the title. And UConn is, a couple more defensive showings away from doing that. They are legitimately right there. They're only about 0.4 points away from the 20th overall defense in New Mexico. So they are right there. They're the number 1 team. They've been the number 1 team for a couple weeks now. They haven't shown any signs, for me at least, of slowing down. They just blew out Xavier at home by 43. They do have a home game against Providence. I do expect them to win. Road game against St. John's. St. John's could use that for the resume. They got a tough little week here, too. Unranked teams in the AP poll. 2 teams barely just inside the top 40. Providence and St. John's, we'll see how they do there, but they have deserved number 1, in my opinion, so far through 13 weeks. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Week 13 College Basketball Power 40 rankings. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you go down there and leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure you subscribe. As always, my Discord next to the link to the description. You can join that. You can follow that. Whatever you like to do. But I will see you guys, not tomorrow. We'll see you guys Wednesday with NFL picks. We're going to do... Actually, no. I don't think... We're not going to do an NFL video. I just realized. Because Super Bowl is not this week. It is next week. So... Maybe we'll do an NBA video again then. Because I don't want to give you guys one video this week. That's kind of not that much content. But, we'll see. So, we'll probably an NBA video this week. So, yeah, we'll see you guys then.